Kinji Ninomiya is determined to become a wealthy NEET, and by investing in a real estate empire, he gets rich without ever having to work. Before we continue with the video, don't forget to hit that like button, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to help us keep bringing more summaries like this one. Now, let's get to the video. A portal suddenly transports him to the world of Amuria, populated by semi-humans. Here, the Age of Heroes has ended, and the labyrinths that were once explored are now mined by modern corporations in search of demonite ore. Kinji is forced to become a miner, but soon accumulates huge debts. He befriends Wanibe, a crocodile-like semi-human, and volunteers to prospect deeper into the labyrinth, where the monsters are more dangerous but the demonite is abundant. He reveals to Wanibe that he has discovered a secret entrance to the 3rd level. They are attacked by a dragon girl named Rim, but Kinji strikes a deal with her, promising that if she protects them while they dig, he will provide tastier food. They begin to make huge profits, but Kinji despairs when his money goes towards feeding Rim, and his debts actually increase. Kinji discovers the staff of a mage left behind by a dead hero, and uses it to hypnotize other miners to work for him. Eventually, the staff breaks, the miners awaken, and Kinji is severely punished. With no money to feed Rim, she threatens to eat Kinji. Kinji and Wanibe are transferred to a dangerous exploration team. Wanibe gets injured, so Kinji is forced to do his share of the work, while also having his pay reduced. This leaves him with no money, as he still needs to feed Rim. A swarm of monster ants invades the mine, and to survive, Kinji uses a transformation potion to turn into an elite warrior and equipment manager as ants, but ends up trapped when their leader seals the mine. Kinji realizes that, while transformed, he can understand the language of the ants and introduces the concept of workers' rights to the worker ants, forming a union to demand that the Ant Queen treat them better. It is revealed that the Ant Queen decided to expand her colony to the mine after Rim disappeared and stopped eating her workers. Kinji confronts the queen with the demands of her workers, but she decides to simply kill them and replace them. Rim appears, having become hungry, so Kinji gives her his dinner. The queen is impressed that Kinji can control Rim, who has been hunting her colony for years. Wanibe returns to work, where Kinji reveals that with Rim, the Ant Queen, and her colony, he plans to take over the Raiza Ha Mining Corporation and form his own Black Dungeon Company. A modern hero employed by the Raiza Ha Corporation finds a Philosopher's Stone in a labyrinth and is invited to join Exploration Group 3. On an island containing a corporate training center, Kinji and Wanibe are forced to endure brutal physical exercises, psychological abuse, and magical brainwashing to increase loyalty to Raiza Ha. Kinji makes Wanibe snap out of the brainwashing and reveals that he knew about it all along, using mind-altering plants to resist and plan revenge. By drugging the brainwashing wizards with the mind-altering plants, they trigger fire spells, blowing up the island, the training center, and all the instructors. Believing they are well brainwashed, the corporation sends Kinji and Wanibe to Group 3, where Shia becomes their supervisor. Kinji tries to point out Raiza Ha's exploitation, but Shia, who is totally loyal, forces him to accompany her into the labyrinth to fight monsters. When Shia tries to kill Ant A, Kinji's favorite ant, he summons Rim to protect him. With Shia captured, Kinji forces her to pose for photographs that incriminate her as a friend of Rim and the Ant Queen. Using the photographs, Kinji blackmails Shia into secretly working for his Black Dungeon Company. Kinji receives an order to pay 5 million gold in a month. Shia shows Kinji that monster parts can be valuable, so Kinji devises a plan. Belza, the director of Raiza Ha, reveals that the March of Death is approaching, when all demonite and monsters regenerate, which is extremely profitable. Kinji builds a farm to harvest monster parts without killing them, and pays the 5 million. Belza reveals that the March of Death includes the resurrection of a Majin, but this requires the sacrifice of a hero, like Shia. Majin attacks Shia, so Kinji throws a magical crystal at him, teleporting Majin to the surface, where he destroys the mine. As Majin digs back into the labyrinth, Kinji has the ants prepare traps. Shia insists on fighting, so Kinji rebukes her for risking her life trying to escape the reputation of her father, the king of failed adventures. Realizing he is right, and that she doesn't need to surpass her father, she decides to live for herself and kills Majin, but destroys her sword in the process. Majin revives and tries to eat Kinji, but Rim senses this, saves Kinji, and eats Majin. Rim reveals that something about Majin's resurrection was unnatural. A teleportation circle that Kinji recognizes as the one that teleported him from Japan opens, and he and Rim fall inside. Kinji wakes up and finds Ranga, the transvestite priest who summoned him, and Zazel, fanatical leader of an underground human village living in a city created thousands of years ago by the advanced civilization of Colonia. Zazel reveals that 300 years ago, an evil corporation dominated the world and threatened threatens him to defeat it. Kinji realizes that he is actually in Amuria, 300 years in the future, and the evil corporation is Raizaha. Arriving at a castle, Kinji discovers it belongs to the demon vice lord Belza, the Ant General, who Kinji realizes is actually his friend Ant A, who has evolved into a powerful monster and is very happy to see him. It is revealed that, far from exploiting humans, General Ant treats them fairly, asking only that they work 40 hours a week while offering holidays and health insurance. The problem is that the humans of the future are irrationally lazy and think that 40 hours is too much work. Belza hasn't managed the corporation for years, and General Ant doesn't know what to do. Deciding to help, Kinji takes over as General Ninomiya, punishing the lazy workers and rewarding the hardworking ones, making the company profitable again, and also takes control of the underground city, replacing Zazel as leader and forcing the citizens to return to work. Generals Rugin, Powerash, and Zex Howler see Kinji as a threat. Power tricks Kinji into an ambush by worm monsters that fails when Rim defeats the worms. Rao blames Kinji for turning barren lands into farms, but Kinji has the worms easily cultivate the land. Zex discovers a secret about Ranga and tries to blackmail her but becomes overwhelmed by desire despite finding out she is biologically male. The three decide to put Kinji in charge of a truly impossible mission. Ranga wakes up in an Alice in Wonderland-like version where white rabbits are slaves to the queen, while unemployed moles live in cyber cafes. Queen Belza arrives and reveals Ranga's secret. She is a descendant of Belza and offers Ranga to live with her carefreely. A white rabbit Kinji tries to convince Ranga to agree, but the real Kinji appears and wakes Ranga up with a headbutt. It is revealed that the generals sent them on a mission to defeat a robot that hypnotized Ranga, but is now destroyed by Rim. Kinji assures Ranga that it is good for her to have her own goals separate from Belza. After defeating the robot, Kinji is invited to meet the Demon Lord, who surprises him by asking him to save the world. The Demon Lord is the resurrected Majin, Rim's twin sister. She explains that the Colonian civilization created dungeons and guardians like Rim to manage the flow of magic throughout the planet. But when Rim met Kinji and abandoned her dungeon, Raizaha managed to dig down to the bottom and use the advanced technology of the Colonian city beneath it to dominate the world. Majin temporarily defeated Raizaha and became the Demon Lord, but Raizaha returned, turning their corporate slaves into robots to defeat Majin and turn the planet into a dystopia empty of biological life. Thus, she offers Kinji a choice: return to Japan or go back in time and stop Raizaha in the past. Kinji chooses to go back in time, where as an employee of Raizaha, Belza finds him 10 million gold for being missing for a month, forcing him, Rim, Ranga, and Wanabe to move into Shia's apartment where Kinji explains his plan: to reach the bottom of the dungeon and reach the Colonian city before Belza to capture their technology and dominate the world first, instead of Belza. Kinji discovers that the dungeon has become much more dangerous. Shia decides to subject him to extreme training, during which he learns that living beings can absorb natural mana and convert it into magic to boost physical abilities, something he cannot do as he is from a world without mana. Kinji sees Ranga playing with a broken gun he brought from the future, but when Rim tries to eat it, the gun absorbs her mana and asks for a password to activate, which Kinji accidentally hits by jokingly suggesting the commonly used keyboard password, QWERTY. Realizing he now has a powerful weapon to compensate for his physical weakness, Kinji takes everyone back into the dungeon to reach Belza's adventurers. Kinji uses the gun to kill several monsters, but the battery quickly runs out and starts draining mana from the environment to recharge, including the magical fibers woven into their clothes, leaving them almost naked. After being reprimanded by Shia, Kinji threatens to get rid of the gun, only to realize the gun has an obsessed girlfriend personality and is forced to keep it when she threatens to self-destruct and kill everyone if he tries to get rid of her. They join other adventurers left naked by Kinji's gun. Zombies attack, and Kinji disappears, leaving his underwear as a clue. Rim follows the scent to a hidden room, where the zombies are used as slave labor to make potions illegally, kept hypnotized by an enchanted workplace rules poster. Ranga breaks the poster, returning the zombies to normal. They follow Kinji's scent and find him torturing an undead mage, who explains that hundreds of years ago his reputation was ruined by a hero, so he was forced to work in the dungeon mines until he died of exhaustion. Now he haunts the dungeon and hypnotizes adventurers to work themselves to death as revenge. Kinji reveals Raizaha's concept of corporate drones, causing the mage to pass on to the afterlife since the adventurers are already killing themselves with overwork. Kinji meets a struggling young shop manager in the dungeon, Cindy, and makes a deal with her. If he can fill her store with paying customers, she will sell him her best dungeon equipment at a huge discount. As the potions made by the zombies have no real effect, Kinji promotes them as a nutritious pre-battle drink to massive profit, but they are soon shut down by Raizaha. Confident that Cindy can now survive on her own, Kinji and the others set off for the next level. Rim dreams of a horned girl. Kinji saves maintenance workers, who explain that the doors to the 5th and 3rd floors are blocked, so they are now trapped on the 4th floor indefinitely, while Belza's bodyguards are now trapped on the 5th floor, which has only 2 powerful monsters guarding the door to the 6th floor. The Ant Queen arrives, having fled with her colony from earthquakes, and she has the horned girl, who turns out to be Majin. The Queen explains that Majin was born after Rim left the dungeon to be her new guardian, but now she is sick, so the dungeon is more dangerous. Rim reacts unusually by hunting food for Majin without eating anything herself, but Majin reacts violently, which disturbs Rim. She explains to Kinji that she feels guilty for defeating Majin, causing Majin to become too weak to manage the dungeon. Kinji and the others restore the ecosystem of the 4th floor through forestry and animal husbandry, while Rim takes care of Majin. With the 4th floor back to normal, Majin recovers and is named Sky by Rim. Sky suddenly becomes severely ill when the door to the 5th floor opens and the 2 monsters multiply into dozens and overpower the bodyguards. Kinji manages to save the bodyguards while Rim defeats the monsters. They locate the 6th floor where Kinji reveals that he secretly advanced with his gun, which gave him information about a magical artifact that Kinji now claims for himself, giving him the power to command all dungeons. Leading an army of monster guards on the surface, he confronts Belza with enough dungeon jewels to pay off his debts, causing him to give up his job. 3 months later, Kinji has turned the dungeon into a theme park, with Renga as his assistant, and begins buying other abandoned dungeons. Using his powers, he is able to manage dungeon magic without Rim or Majin, turning them back into profitable mines run by the Ant Queen. Shia starts a new career. Kinji ruins Raizaha's profits by flooding the market with cheap demonite and putting Cindy in charge of an adventure equipment-based magazine delivery service that, thanks to Wanabe's demonite research, is cheaper and of better quality than anything Raizaha sells. He also ends discrimination against semi-humans, employing them with the same rights as humans. Belza becomes an alcoholic and is tormented by Ranga, who, as his descendant, knows Belza's childhood story. Belza suddenly devises a plan to get revenge on Kinji using Shia. Kinji is arrested for crimes he committed before getting rich, with Belza manipulating Shia to testify against him. Portrayed as a potential threat to humanity, Kinji is tortured to extract a confession, but he resists. Shia visits and heals his wounds, realizing that Belza manipulated her. The Ant Queen recalls that Kinji wrote a manual for this type of emergency. 1 month later, Belza is appointed director of Raizaha, but is shocked when Kinji is suddenly released and appointed CEO. Wanabe reveals that, following Kinji's manual, they bought 40% of all Raizaha's shares and convinced owners of another 15% to support them, giving them the majority of Raizaha's shares. Raizaha is absorbed by Kinji's company, where he makes Belza work with Ranga to improve their family relationship. Despite his victory, Kinji finds that he is not happy. Concerned about his behavior, Ranga reveals that Kinji is from Japan and may be planning to return. Kinji confirms that he was happier pursuing a goal than he is now that he has won, but instead of returning to Japan, he plans to expand the company, take control of dungeons in other countries, and continue until he controls the entire world. That was today's content. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to share the video, leave your like, and stay tuned for the next video. Take care.